So the first issue of new economic policy gets interconnected with the second. That is the ascendancy of neoliberalism as a capitalist model of accumulation and its umbilical link with the entrepreneurial model of governance, tightening of control of the international financial institutions like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, DFID, and like other institutions in urban development in India became a part and parcel of the structure. And connected to these above two issues comes the third, that is materialization of an entrepreneurial city that will represent the praxis of neoliberal at local scale. The contemporary interpretation of entrepreneurial city, which David has given, David Harvey, suggests that the contemporary neoliberal urban political arena gets ever more influenced by powerful business interests through public-private partnerships, much less concerned with wealth distribution and welfare, particularly interested in signature projects to enhance the imageability of the city, and finally is driven by the political economy of place rather than the territory or the region. And the current entrepreneurial regime in India is all set to revive this competitive position of the urban economies through privatization, demunicipalization, and recommodification of social and economic life. And of course, getting largely dissociated from their organic territories in terms of regional development. And finally, the fourth issue represents the regional component of the global strategy of the post-Fordist economy of the present time, which is operating through fragmentation and distribution of production and services, by which there is a tremendous flexibilization of the urban economies, which we find happening in India. In India now, the organized sector employment constitutes less than 6%. The rest is unorganized sector. And yes, last but not the least, the necessity of cities like Mumbai to come out as IFC, International Financial Center. In a report of the central government, it is written very clearly that for Mumbai to become an IFC, India's policymakers and financial operators need to fully understand the nature of opportunities in the global IFS market, the activities undertaken in global financial centers, and the gap in the capabilities that now exists between Mumbai and the established GFC. A proper understanding and theorization of this new urban form, which we also call as new urbanism, will remain superficial if it does not involve a discourse, which is very much there, on the deepening polarization and disarticulation that the process creates, and the people's resistance that arises out of it. This is because cities under neoliberal imposition not only concentrate a disproportionate share of corporate capital to become key sites for their overvalorization, but they also concentrate an increasingly disproportionate share of disadvantaged and marginalized people and become key sites of their continuing devalorization. In the contemporary situation in India, there has been a widespread erosion of public sympathy for the citizenship rights of the dispossessed, which I can see, we have seen, operating in many of the cities all over the world, that it is becoming very old-fashioned and very conservative to talk about these things and not to talk about the modern and the fashionable urban, which is very much there, and we know these types of researchers also. So this widespread erosion of public sympathy for the citizenship rights of the dispossessed and the associated urban restructuring is leading to an increasing legitimization of the dispossession of the poor, segregation of the city space, and also dissociation of the cities from their territories. And all these are getting directly linked to the basic questions of the right to the city. The important question which we are trying to raise is whether the cities are becoming a space for new politics embedded in the claims and counterclaims. Because even though the claims of the corporate sector and the rich pave the way for a very repressive and revanchist urbanism, it also suggests that at the other extremes, there are claims made by the dispossessed, struggling for entitlement and alternatives. And there is a very vital question which is there, located everywhere, the question of ecology, the question of environment, the sustainability, the actual concept of sustainability of cities. It is really important to be seen whether the powerful contradictions inherent in the interaction between these two lead to a more progressive, radical and democratic use of the city space, or whether neoliberalism sits deeper. Theories and praxis of neoliberal urbanism and the enforcement of the regulatory regime in Indian cities and their regions are actually getting intrinsically associated with such resistance and struggles, and coming out of different intellectual groups with alternative plans and strategies, trying to negotiate with the government, which actually is signifying a radical politics of contestation that would finally decide, according to us, for whom the cities and the city spaces are meant, and also for many of us, that what type of cities we would like them to grow. Thank you very much. I hope I have been able to give you some idea as to what is happening in India in terms of urban policies, and if there is any clarification.